Hello, possums. Now, in Australia, that's a term of endearment. So your intrepid viewers and also my darling possums. Bless. So we're on the eve. We're on the eve of the public hearings. God. So let's, priority one, have a look at those and what the effect may be. And in other news, Jared and Don Jr. have to testify in July, I think it's July 15, with Letitia James. And apparently the Yeti has said he would testify, but he's never once in his entire miserable, corrupt and filthy life done what he said he'd do, you know. So there'll be some argy-bargy, I predict, before he testifies. But as we sit here, he's running out of excuses. Right? But the first thing we're going to look at is the hearings, and we're looking again at the impact, both on the public and on the GOP. So let's have a look. Let's have a look here. Yeah. All right. So I'm combining this in a way to try and get the vibe or the atmosphere of the thing. Why am I getting Kushner with that? I don't know. Is Kushner's testimony going to be part of it? Page of Wands, normally a nice person, normally someone who can speak well, used to be my Obama card. And yet, the ever so tarnished, thick as a brick, scurrilous, wretched person, Jared Kushner. So like all cards, it's on a spectrum from the worst to the best of the meaning. So, I think his testimony could be important if it's there. I don't know. I haven't looked at the fine print, but please let me know in the comments. Now, the energy under the hearings, this is the heartbreak of America. Obviously, people who'll be watching are those who care very bad, and that this was an extremely sad and traumatic day in the history of the nation. That's the energy around this, right? Following this, women are heavily invested in the outcome of this. And I would go so far as to say, not only Democratic women, I think Republican women. I think with the Uvalde shooting and other things, I think there's a secret sort of group of Republican women who are really sick of this behaviour. I'm not talking about the rusted on MAGAs and, you know, the Handmaid's Tale evangelical devotees who really think if someone has a penis, they're a superior being. I'm sorry, I can't help you. But there's a lot, I would say millions, of Republican women who were not impressed, A, by what happened on January 6th, and B, how the GOP responded, right? So women are very, very invested in this. So past actions, what we're going to see, I think, we never get far from the money with these people, do we? No, we get an inch away and we're back to the money. So this is the money, literally, that changed hands. This is, I think, what's going to sink the more senior members of the Trump government who paid for the buses and the communications and promised to pay legal bills or whatever, for the Proud Boys, the Oath Keepers, you know, your average Fred Flintstone who felt compelled to go along. The money is going to be very important in the long-term play of these hearings. What's on top? You've still got the, this is a new version of the Yeti in a way, because he actually does have the brain of a cactus. Even at this stage, I don't think he gets it. This person is quite relaxed, the smug merchant. He is so used to being able to get away with everything. It has never crossed his tiny little fetid brain that this could really do damage. So he's still oblivious. And to a certain extent, I would group with him. These are the Peter Navarros and people, the Bannons and stuff, all the same, that same energy. They can't touch us. If they had anything, we'd be in jail. They haven't got anything, you know, boo, 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 boo. Them, all of them. Now, the hearings. This will be the sword of truth, hand of God, cutting through the crown. I love that. And known affectionately in the tarot trade as the cutting through the BS card. But obscurity and obscuring and things not being clear, that worries me a bit. Why isn't it clear? You know, I think this is, it's the card of confusion, delusion, etc. But it can also be, I'm making this up now, fellow tarot readers, the card of denial. I mean, this is someone who's dazzled by what's going on, but there's a major element of denial going on. So not out of the woods yet. We'll have to see it unfold. But I now want to look more specifically at GOP tactics. So they're sort of the tactics for how are we, the GOP, going to handle this stuff. Now, as a commentator said this week, I hope they've got good pictures, right? Because pictures speak 1,000 words and videos speak 2,000 words. I love that. So we know from a previous reading they're split, right, between those who deny it and those who want to minimize it, and those who are the third wheel, which is those who are proud of it. Remember Navarro, the Green Bay sweep, rushed around the country going, I'm an insurrectionist, really. No cure for stupid. Okay, I've moved to the Toth cards, and I haven't used these for ages, but I thought I'm going to read on Ivanka, and really I dedicate this pack to the Trump adult criminal offspring. But first we're looking at the GOP. GOP. How are they going to handle the hearings? The false knight, that would be right. Oh, defeat. Defeat and success, how weird is that? And we've got some princesses going on, including Ivanka's very own card. But look, what I think is going to happen is the first card here, the Knight of Cups. Now, this is someone who brings an emotional message. And I think it's both ways. It's emotional for both sides. So if you're in the camp of sane, decent, thinking, caring Americans, this is an emotional issue for you. If you are a delirious and uninformed cement head, you are still emotionally invested in what happened on that day. That's how I see that card. We're talking about the GOP. They're experiencing, I think, the defeat is an active thing that's happening. They also get the card of success. So let's see what's going on there. This is the Queen of Cups. Okay. Bear in mind, Biden to me is the King of Cups. So the Queen of Cups is here, which I think represents women again coming up very strongly. The success, what on earth does the success mean? I'll have to do a clarifier. And the outcome is the Queen of Wands. So this is fire. This is going to be very volatile for the GOP. I think they're split. I'm going to do clarifiers on success. I mean, a superficial glance at this would say they'll have some defeats and some successes. But let's do that. And then I'll tell you something else that I've been thinking about. Why success? What sort of success might they have? Oh, an adjustment. I think it's going to be, see, look at this. It's like the Justice card. I don't think it is the GOP having success. This was, I think, much more about the success of justice itself. Oh, please, God. But you'd have to think, wouldn't you, how divided they are, how to handle this. Do they say, you know, these guys are just great Americans, just a little bit enthusiastic? Or do they say this was a terrible thing and they try and distance themselves from it? So I think we've got to look at the scales of justice in this. This is also the strength card in other decks. A massively strong card. So I'm reassured by that. I don't think they are going to have a significant success. I think we have to put our faith in the legal system a little bit longer. Now, and don't worry, viewers, I've had a lot of questions. Why weren't Mark Meadows and who was the communications guy? Scavino. How come they didn't get arrested for failing to appear? There's only one answer to that, and that's because they gave up shitloads of information. They did a deal. So I don't think that's a bad thing, right? So Bannon and what's his face got arrested and they didn't. I really, really think that's why. Okay. Ivanka and Don Jr. Oh, the other thing, don't you love it? Memphis doesn't want to have a Trump rally because, or pay for the security because he doesn't pay his bills. And I think that should be part of the Dems promo, you know, leading into the midterms. All the bills Donald Trump hasn't paid. You know, that'd fill a screen. All right. Now I'll do Don Jr. first. Don Jr. Here we go. All right. It's like the Princess of Swords here. It's like this Knight of Swords. There's an element of impulsiveness and craziness here that's probably not surprising, given his recreational habits. Right, there's an element of being out of control with this card. He isn't used to being hemmed in, and I think his energy is really chaotic. You really wouldn't want to be a lawyer for these people, would you? Yeah. The card underneath him is the card of strife, difficulty. In his past, and this rules his life, the pleasure principle, right? This is in the past. He's always just done what he wanted to do when he wanted to do it and had a life, the playboy lifestyle, even though he's got 1 million kids and all of that. Not really focused on anything. Now, on top of this, he does have the Lover's card. Someone's batting for him. This could be someone who's promised him some sort of backup testimony that might let him off the hook a bit, or this could be a plea deal. It's not going to be the worst of the worst for him. This card softens the blow, but it doesn't take it all away. Then the card of the universe or the world, but the game's up. Trump org has come to the end of its natural cycle, I would say. Letitia James, at the end of this, you think she'd have to dismantle the organisation, if nothing else. So the game's up, right? But this deal could be, I'm sorry, Your Honour, he has to go to rehab. And I think that'd be a really scabby outcome, and I certainly wouldn't be happy, and I doubt most of you would be. Could be that. There'd be plenty of evidence to support he does have issues. Allegedly. Okay. Now, on to his warm and fuzzy sister. Now, we know from the evidence that's been submitted for all this, it was Ivanka, because who'd send her brothers, to close a big deal? At least she could bedazzle the other side, even if she couldn't read a spreadsheet either. Between them, they couldn't actually run a raffle, or as we say in Australia, a chook raffle. So Ivanka was the one who often talked to potential clients and buyers, and they used to do that classic scam of building some sort of series of condominiums in places like Panama or anywhere, Florida, and that were trashily built, and then say, look, there's only one left, grab it, you're really special. Then someone buys in and finds they're the only one who's bought one. Oh. So all these classic grifts, they're just grifters. So she has to testify, I think it's on the 15th of July. Does anyone know, is Trish James in the court? Is she the actual prosecutor for these things in the court, or is she higher than that and her people do it? I'd love to know. I'd love to see a showdown between Letitia James and Ivanka. Now, what's happening in July for Ivanka? She gets the Knight of Pentacles, the mercenary. She gets the card lust. Yeah. Oh. Oh dear. Look, I should be a nicer person. And I should really sort of say things like, perhaps they'll learn from this. And perhaps they'll give some of their ill-gotten gains to charity or something. But you know what? No. So she gets the Knight of Discs, Knight of Pentacles, in these political readings, those who can be bought and sold. Okay. Now, like her brother who got the pleasure card, she gets the lust card. Now, in this deck, don't forget she's a Scorpio. So I think this is about using her sexuality. and stuff in terms of doing these deals. Okay. So you've got these rich clients. Who do you send to close the deal? Do you send Don Jr. or do you send Ivanka? You know. So the Seven of Wands, she's feeling defensive at this point, and so she should. She's got a lot to defend. Okay. So then with the Four of Wands, this is in the Thoth deck completion. It's the end of a mini cycle. She's going to come out, or at least her counsel is going to come out very strongly with these wands. We've got side-by-side wands, which are fire and quite combative and so forth. I don't know that we're going to see that much emotion from Ivanka. Well, you wouldn't, would you, with that much Botox in your face? But I think she's smarter than the brothers, so she's more likely to let her lawyers do the talking and keep her stuff to a minimum. But ultimately, I'm sorry, Dal, I'm sorry, Pet, defeat. This card came up for the GOP, right? Inverted pentagram, not good news. This is not going to be good. I mean, Alvin Bragg seems to be at least back at the table pretending to be a legal person. Letitia James, there's a lot resting on her, and she has been committed to this process. So I think her role, I'm getting these confused in my head now, but she's the New York AG, is that right? She's in a supervisory role, but she would have her best people working on that, right? So I hope they're good. I really hope they're good. Now, a few people have asked me about Musk and Elon Musk saying to people, you come back to work full time or you go and work somewhere else. What a dog. I mean, really, and the way he's saying it, not let's all get back together and do it. No, my way or the highway. This is my personal opinion, but I don't think the Twitter thing's going to go ahead. I just don't. Too much is going on in his world. Now, I want to get this up because it's a day late. And not a day late and a dollar short, to quote Linda G, just a day late. With the power failures that are heading up the pike, right? Particularly in Texas, Florida, hot states, but Texas particularly. And I was reminded, I grew up in a really hot state that was called the Texas of Australia, the deep north, as it was called, because we were at the other end. And no one had air conditioning. We didn't have it. No one had it. Not in our cars, not in our houses. It was 100 degrees routinely for 3 months of the year. So I just want to share a few old-fashioned tips for you to keep cool. One is wet sheets. We would wet sarongs and sheets and put them on the bed, and you know what, half an hour later they'd be dry. But you got to go to sleep because it was wet. You'd have wet sheets on the window, get a bit of cooler breeze. You get in the car. We used to have wet towels. You put it on the steering wheel while you were putting the kids in the car and all of that so you could touch it. Then you'd have a wet towel around your neck. Then you had another wet towel you were sitting on. It was primitive, but effective. All right, so I wish you guys all the best. We will have a running commentary as these hearings unfold. I'll probably get back to you shortly, like in a couple of days, and see how that's traveling. Okay, guys, bye for now. Love you, love you, love you. Good luck. Bye.